Okay,
Okay.
awesome. Thank you. So I have a couple questions.
All right.
Not much. It's pretty much all based on the traditions of touching the rock and running down the hill.
Let's put them in the other order. Running down the hill and touching the rock, because that puts them in historical order.
Okay, so
All right.
running down the hill was first.
Oh yes, much earlier, much earlier.
Okay.
And in fact, running down the hill is reputed to have begun with the 1942 football game against Presbyterian College.
Huh.
It was the opening of the season. We had built the new stadium where it is now. And the guys dressed over in Fike Fieldhouse.
Okay,
Right,
yes.
okay. And they walked from Fike Fieldhouse to the stadium. And when they got there, the question was, do we go in a gate or do we just run down the hill? And what's the easiest way? Running down the hill.
It's the funner way too.
Yeah, so they did it. And that became the tradition. That lasted really until 1970, when the head coach had retired. That was Frank Howard.
Okay.
And when he retired, the new head coach decided he was going to cut that nonsense out. So he cut that nonsense out. We didn't run down the hill from 1970 until 1970. Should I get this right? 1972 for the Carolina game.
So it was 1970 to 1972?
We did not run down.
We did not. And was that because of the coach, you said?
Yes.
Okay.
And the students went to him and said, we want to run down the hill again. That's why we think we've been doing so badly. Well, he didn't believe them, but he was willing to try. So they ran down the hill. And they upset Carolina on a rainy, sleeting day. You sat in the stadium, did you? For the
I
Notre Dame
did.
game?
Kind of wish I didn't because I had a cold.
Yeah, well, they ran down. It was raining and sleeting for the whole game. And Clemson won the game 7-6. And that reestablished running down the hill, which we have done every year since then, every game since then.
Wow.
Now, having said that, there are some folks who take great exception to the beginning year of 1942, because if they turn, let me see if I can find that in the yearbook that shows a picture of this. If they turn to the seasons, early seasons, when we played football over on Riggs Field, that was our first football field. It was also, this may sound stunning to you, it was the 6th football stadium in America built on a college campus.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So the new stadium that we have now
Was built in 1942.
was built in 1940. And that was the 6th in the country
Yes,
built
in
at
the
a college.
country.
That is amazing.
The first, of course, was Harvard. And I think Princeton was the second. Anyway, there was a write-up recently in a publication from the, wherever it was. I think it was the Orange and White, which listed the stadium in order of being built. So this was far and away ahead of its time. USC Stadium is not on its campus.
That's
Thought
true.
about that. It's on the fairground. And a lot of teams played in their town, but at some other facility.
So we were the first to actually have it on our campus.
Not the first, but
Well,
we were early.
The sixth.
We were the sixth, yes. Now, if you look at this picture, this is looking at the old field. This is the field in its second year. And do you know this building?
I do.
Which one is that?
I don't know the name, but I recognize it.
It's Godfrey. Godfrey is now an education building. It was built to be the textile school. You can see the tower and everything.
Yeah.
Well, they had a basement which was free. And so the football team dressed in the basement. And they also had all their facilities in the basement. They didn't have glorious things yet, like hot tubs and stuff like that.
Do we have hot tubs now?
Oh, yes. Oh, well, you've got to take care of the sprains as quickly as you can. People will go on something worse. Anyway, they would come out right there. You see that little spot there?
Yeah.
They would walk down here, and you can see the path.
And isn't that the soccer field now?
Yes.
Okay.
So it looks to most people as though running down the field actually began back, this is 1917, so it's the 1916 football season. 1916 on Riggs Field, running from Godfrey down onto the field because it was the shortest distance.
Yeah.
And there is a flight of steps down here now. It wasn't there then.
Okay.
There was no way from Holzendorf down. And Holzendorf had just been built. It was not built with football changing rooms.
So you had to use the other
Godfrey,
one
yeah.
because it had changing
Space.
facilities.
And so that's where they changed. Do you know the first game played here was against Davidson College? Davidson was a big, big rival of Clemson's at the time.
Okay.
We didn't have a lot of those other schools around that we occasionally play now. Davidson was a rival, and for the first football game in this stadium, Dr. Riggs, who played football at Auburn, kicked off.
No way. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Can you imagine our president kicking off today?
I can't now, but I can see it.
Yeah, okay. So that answers the question of running down the hill. It's an old Clemson tradition. However, it was remembered or recognized. Now, your next question is about the rock.
Yes, sir.
The rock came to us in the 1960s, and it was a gift of an alumnus who had picked up the rock in Death Valley, California, and drove it from California back over here and gave it to Frank Howard as a rock from Death Valley. So your next question is, why did Death Valley become important to Clemson? That occurred in the 1950s when the head coach of Presbyterian College, now this is the second time I've mentioned these good people, Presbyterian College, was asked by a newspaper reporter, what does it feel like knowing that every year at the beginning of the season you take your team up to Clemson and you get beaten 35-0, 27-7, those kind of terrible scores.
Mm-hmm.
He said, frankly, it's like taking the team into Death Valley. And that's where the name came from. Long before the name was used over at LSU. I was a Tulane student at the time and used to go up for the LSU games. LSU was called Tiger Stadium. And that's what it was until they decided to adopt Death Valley. And now they're trying to play like, oh, we've had it forever. You know.
They haven't, because we first had it.
Yeah, we had it first.
And who was the person that said...
The head coach for Presbyterian College. If you check in the history of the university, which is entitled the High Seminary, Volume 1, you can get his name. It's in there. They keep it, a copy of it. I think they've got a copy here. You can probably check it out when we finish this interview. So they brought him this rock, and Coach Howard was a very matter-of-fact person. Well, he kept the rock on his desk for a while, and then it got in the way. So he
used a big rock.
So he used the rock as a doorstop. And finally he got sick of the rock, and he turned to another man in the athletic department, and he said, "Would you get rid of this rock for me? I'm tired of kicking it every time I come in the doorway." Well, the guy picked it up and said, "Sure." And he thought, well, what I'll do is install it at the top of the field where the team comes in. So they put it on a pedestal on the top of the field, and Coach Howard noticed it, and we were playing NC State was the first game that year. That was in the late 60s, so it must have been like 66 or 7. State had a very good team that year. They had some guys who were All-Americans, and all of their team wore white shoes. And, everybody was scared to death playing NC State. Well, anyway, they came here to play, and Coach Howard told his players, "If you're not going to give me 1,000% in this game, keep your hands off my rock." Well, that established the notion of pledging 1,000%, which of course is not very good English, because it means 1,000 per 100, which is an incalculable number. But whatever, they all began slapping the rock as they went down the hill. Thus, the tradition began of touching the rock on the way down. Other coaches have taken to it with great love and affection, of whom Sweeney is certainly one of them. Dabo apparently believes in the rock. If you notice, he puts his hand on it and points up. I guess that's to the great rock hurler in the sky or something like that. And we've tended to win. So that's the whole tradition of touching the rock. Now, any questions?
Let me see. Have you ever touched rock?
Yes,
and run down the hill?
Well, I don't run down the hill. I'm not a football player. I didn't go here to school. I went to Tulane and other schools. I came here to teach in 1964. Is that right? Or 3, I forgot. Anyway, I've been here ever since. A long, 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 long time.
You might have taught my dad. I don't remember what year he graduated.
Have you ever heard your father curse?
No.
Then don't ask him if he ever had me. I was very tough.
Those are the best teachers, though.
Well,
I think.
I have a good memory.
That's good.
Yeah, that helps me. Okay, so that's the history of the rock.
Thank you.
Anything else you need to know? What taps did I pull off the wall for you?
You did the 17.
Yeah, because it was the 16 season. It was the second year we played. It was the first time the impression in the earth was visible. You have to run a while before you make a cow path.
Yeah, and the 17 edition
Commemorates the 16th football season.
Okay.
Did you go to school in Charleston?
I did. I went to Wando High School.
Wando, that's all the way across the creek.
Yes, sir.
On the other side of
It
the
was
Cooper.
a long drive each day.
Yes, it is.
But I liked the school. It was good.
I'm glad. You went across the Arthur Ravenel Bridge. Arthur Ravenel was born at Pouchy.
Oh, I did not know that.
All the screwy Ravenels, according to the Ravenel family, are born at Pouchy.
Hmm.
Pouchy was the Ravenel's first home, which was given to them by the Lord's proprietors. You have to go way back into South Carolina history to know about the Lord's proprietors. But when they arrived in South Carolina in 1688,
I love the history of
that's great stuff.
That was my favorite class. When attending the football games, do you go to the football games now? Does it affect you in any way watching them touch the rock?
I get very excited as they come in. I think about the generations of players I've known and would watch for as they came to the rock to make sure they touched it.
Make sure they do, yeah. Do you agree that running down the hill is the most exciting 25 seconds in football?
Listen, I've seen a lot of opening football games in my life. I've seen Tulane during its best years. And I can recall sitting as a child in the Tulane children's section. And it was a steel section. And the tradition there was when you first saw the team appear in the passageway to run out, and stomping your feet to make it woo. Yes, this is the most exciting thing I've ever seen because the build-up begins really as the buses turn to come down the street, and so people begin rising and applauding at that point. Yeah, it's very dramatic.
I agree.
It's certainly better than running out in a bunch of smoke.
That's true. I'm not a fan of that.
Well, I'm always worried that maybe the dressing rooms are on fire, or maybe all their jock straps caught fire, and they're burning sensitively.
Yeah. Okay. That is all my questions.
Okay.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Yes, ma'am. Glad to do it with you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Let me know if you can get a grade on it.
I will email you.
Yes, I do want to know.
Let's see.
I'm going to get to my wife. I'm supposed to be somewhere for lunch.
Oh.
And so it goes on and on and on. Are those opals you're wearing?
The ring? I'm sorry. Oh, no. I wish. I love opal.
Yeah.
These, I don't know.
Are you an October child?
I'm a July. So
well, that's rubies.
Yes, sir. I love the ruby. I have a twin sister, and we both share that. So it's great.
That's a good idea. Are you, is your sister here with you?
Yes, sir. She goes to